Yeah, we're on the back on the record. Thank you, one. I was almost going like this. Okay, do you see how this is almost vertical? So you know it's the posterior side, correct? Okay, my good friends, and I keep turning and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. Voila! Do you see this one? Sloping from the top left to the bottom right. So this is the anterior interventricular sulcus for sure. Okay? All right? And then we will know that the left ventricle includes the apex. So that even when we cut through and we open it, we can always tell which one is the right ventricle. One, because it's smaller, but two, because the apex is always on. It's not equal. If it was divided equally, both of them would have a bit of the apex. But the apex is on the left. You see, so whenever you see the apex and I'll ask what's that chamber, you know that it's going to be the left ventricle. And then this will be the right ventricle. Correct? Okay, and this is the anterior interventricular sulcus, and then the coronary sulcus is kind of hidden here. You see what I'm saying? It goes across like that. And then remember we said we get the anterior interventricular sulcus sloping to the bottom right like this from top left, and then we will confirm that boom, voila, that it is indeed the anterior side, because we see this pulmonary trunk right there. Do you see it right there? It's like there. It's amazing. You can't miss it a mile away. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, I'm sorry. Do you see what they did to my heart? They vacuum packed it so tight. Oh, crap. Did you see? I'm on the right side. I didn't mean to poke through my heart. But do you see how you know that this is definitely the pulmonary trunk? Do you understand? Because it's going here to the right side, and this is the left ventricle. If I were to go through the aorta, I would come out here. You know what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? And we will do that. You see, definitely this is the aorta. You can see how it's already starting to curve to the left. Is it just me or what? You see what I'm saying? Here. So I'm not going to poke my left side again. It's so thick, but this one is going here. And I don't want to do like I did here. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so there's that. And you might see, and we do have some of these blood vessels here. So this is the pulmonary trunk for sure. So and obviously this is the left auricle. It's kind of folded up a little bit, you know, left auricle. Okay, the pulmonary veins, usually you never see them. But for instance, if I was to point towards the left auricle and I'm like, what is that major blood vessel? You would have to say pulmonary veins, because there's 4, right? But if I was to say what's the structure, you'd say left auricle. Do you see what I'm saying, my good friends? So don't see the arrow pointing to the auricle and you just immediately think, left auricle. No, if I'm asking for a major blood vessel, because you know, obviously when they got this house, they cut them off. They were not like intending for them to come to the anatomy lab. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you don't see them. But once you have determined which is your left side and which is your right side, you know that it's going to be the pulmonary veins into the sort of left atrium, which is the left auricle, because auricle is an extension of the atria, right? Correct? And you see here, this is the right auricle. And sometimes you might see the superior vena cava, like here. You see what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm saying here? The superior vena cava, which goes into the right atrium. Okay? But usually, if I'm pointing towards the right auricle and I'm like, what's that major blood vessel? You could say superior vena cava, you could say vena cava, or even if you say inferior vena cava, I don't mind. Usually, you never see the inferior vena cava. It's always cut. Okay, my good friends? So I'm going to kind of sort of cut this off a little bit, just so that my heart is not too busy, so that I can be able to play with it a little. Make sure that, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not cutting through my straps. So this is why I'm doing now, because I'm going to cut from this end, from the left ventricle towards the right. I'm going to leave it hanging by a bit of the right ventricle. You understand? So I can open it like a page like that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It will look like a butterfly. Yeah, true. Because it's whatever. Okay, but like I said, because these were vacuum packed, which is not ideal, because then it will contort the organ any which way. So this is why I'm kind of playing with it. And hopefully I get real lucky, and when I make a good cut, you know, like I got lucky yesterday. You know, I really did make a good one. You see what I'm saying? So this is why, and I kind of had to play with it like this a little bit. Do you see how I'm nice and making it round, so that it's not gonna cut through my stuff? You see, all this fat is necessary, and my nose is itching, and I cannot. Crappity crap. Okay, my good friends. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut. So I'm gonna cut. Make sure I cut like this, and I wanna cut in the middle, so that I can sort of cut through my aorta in the middle like this. So I'm gonna use my aorta as my guiding sort of point, because I wanna make sure I cut through this, you know, kind of like the middle of this like that. You know what I mean? So that I can see the aortic semilunar valve. If I'm too much on one side, sometimes I miss it, and then I won't be able to see any of the structures that I want to see. Okay? So this is why I'm doing this. So that, and then my good friend, I'm gonna go ahead. Sorry about that. Make sure that, and I'm always talking about Game of Thrones. I don't know if you guys watched it. You know how they take the sword from the sheath. So this is one of those big knives. So I'm gonna gauge like this. You see what I'm saying? Like somewhere here, and then I'm gonna make my incision from here, going to the right ventricle. Okay. So I'm gonna play with it a little bit more just to make sure that. Okay. And like in true fashion, I never cut towards myself. So I'm cutting from here, going towards here, the small right ventricle, and I'm gonna use my aorta as a guiding light, so that I can kind of sort of, you know what I'm saying? So like this, you see what I'm saying? And then I'm gonna make my cut. So it looks like I'm kind of central. Through my moderator band. You see, this time I didn't get so lucky because this point was kind of scooted inwards like that. But anyway, I was still sort of central from my aorta. Do you see what I'm saying? But I cut through my moderator band. This one, you see, because of this indentation, you see there's my moderator band, which is attached like that. You see what I'm saying? So it kind of got cut, but I will show you. You see, there's my moderator band. You know what I'm saying? It's which is here. So it's one of those things that could happen, and I will contrast this, but at least I can see my valves, right? And I'll show you. You know, so this one, what valve would this be? You can see it's on this side, right? It's an atrioventricular valve, right? Because it's right. Because this is, which ventricle is this? This is the left. This is the right, which is small. You see how even the muscle is thin, except I cut my moderator band here. But anyway, this would be the bicuspid. It's on the left. Okay. This one would be the tricuspid. It's on the right. And this is my moderator band, which got cut, and it's over here. Do you see how it's attached to the interventricular septum and the papillary muscle on this side? Okay, so I show you yesterday when this heart was a lot better. Voila! Do you see from yesterday? Isn't that coolio? This one, we just cut it a little bit, but because there was this indentation here that kind of got me. If this one was a little bit away from there, I would have been able to cut nicely like yesterday. Look here. You see how the moderator band is attached to the papillary muscle here, and then it's attached to the interventricular septum. Do you understand? Do you see that? So you know this is the right ventricle. This one we cut through ours here. We didn't get so lucky. Okay, but this is what we got lucky yesterday. So now we're going through the parts. We have just identified this one, right? Okay, which is the bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Is the left atrioventricular valve, but I like you to call it the bicuspid. Why? Because you're going to know how many cusps are in there. See what I'm saying? Bicuspid, and this one would be the tricuspid. Tricuspid, okay? And this one would be the, you see how the valve is pointing up like this instead of these ones are pointing down. You see how they're pointing down because they're gathering blood and closing up and making the first heart sound, right? These ones, when the blood tries to go back into the ventricles, they will close up. So this one would be, which valve is this? First, what's this blood vessel? It's coming from this side. Do you see how it's coming from this side? There's the interventricular septum, right? So this is the, we've already determined this is the left side, correct? Yeah, because it contains the apex. So that's the aorta. So this is the, yeah, which one? You just said this is the aorta, so this is the aortic semilunar valve. Yeah, you've got to qualify that. If you just say semilunar, I'll be like, which one? Okay. And yesterday we did cut through this. This is our, remember, this is our front side, right? Where we've got the interventricular groove like this, correct? Or the anterior, I want you to call it anterior interventricular groove because it will show you that you are, or anterior interventricular sulcus, because then if you say anterior, you know you're on the anterior side. And this is the pulmonary trunk. And you want to see the pulmonary semilunar valve? I cut it through here. Do you see? I had to cut it so that we could see it. But I made the cut so you could still see it is intact. So it's not like looking all flappity-flap. Okay? So here, my good friends, do you see it? Do you see the aortic pulmonary semilunar valve? Is it just me or what? Do you see the flaps? Oh, crappity crap. Do you see the flaps? There's the flaps of the aortic, pulmonary semilunar valve. These are the flaps. Do you see them? You see? The semilunar valves like this. You see what I'm saying? You see? Looky here, my good friends. Do you see? These are them, the flaps. So that's the pulmonary semilunar valve. 1, aortic semilunar valve. 2, bicuspid mitral valve, left atrioventricular valve. 3, tricuspid and or tricuspid or the right atrioventricular valve. Okay, but tricuspid is better because you know it's got 3 cusps. And yesterday I was saying to the other class that the left side is pumping under high pressure, so it only has 2 cusps, so that, and the 2 cusps meet at one point, so that is a point where you could have leakages. So if you're pumping under high pressure, you want to reduce the number of points where you might have leakages. You understand? Because you're pumping under very high pressure. So that's why, according to me, that's my reasoning for that the left side would have 2 cusps, so that the rest of it is attached around the ventricular myocardium, but the only point where they meet is only one point where you could have a fault, where you might have a leak. So you are reducing your chances of having a leak because you have only one point of contact. But when you have 3 cusps, you have 3 areas of contact with the 3 cusps, but you are pumping under low pressure. You understand? So you can afford to do that. That's my reasoning for it. Okay, for having 3 cusps on the right side and 2 cusps on the left. Do you see what I'm saying? So again, this is the interventricular septum. This is a papillary muscle. Okay, this papillary muscle, which is attached to the moderator band. So in the exam, I'll be like, what's the moderator band is much thicker, and there's only one of it. And I'll be like, what's that thick string-like structure? You'd say septomarginal trabecular or moderator band, whichever floats your boat. I take both. You understand? And it is attached to the interventricular septum. It is attached to the papillary muscle. The papillary muscles are more the pimple-like muscles on the ventricular myocardium. Okay, you see how this because this ventricle is got thicker myocardium, you see how more prominent on the left side the trabeculicani are than the trabeculicani in the right ventricle. The right ventricle is a smaller chamber with a smaller, not a smaller chamber as such, but a much thinner myocardium. You understand? So that means makes sense that the trabeculicani, which are these ridge-like muscular tissues, they are more prominent in the left ventricle than they are in the right ventricle. Makes sense, because this is much thicker. You understand? Okay, what are these string-like structures that are connected to the cusps? Starts with a C and is labeled on the board. 2 words. So chordae tendini. Chordae tendini. Again, I'll be like, what are those string-like structures? I might point to 2 of them, and then you'll be like chordae tendini, and it's over on the board there. You understand? And then the other string-like structure would be this one, which is much thicker, and there's only one of it, and it's on the right ventricle, because it confirms that this is the right ventricle. It's a moderator band or septomarginal trabecular. Okay, my good friends? And then if you look at the auricles, you see what I'm saying? Do you see these smaller muscular ridges? Those are musculi pectinati or pectinate muscles, versus the much bigger trabeculicani especially on the left ventricle, because they're more prominent than they are the trabeculicani than they are on the right ventricle, right? So the smaller muscular ridges in the atria, especially the auricles, because the auricle extend the atria, that's the musculi pectinati or pectinate muscles, right? Okay, and the bigger ridges on the ventricle are trabeculicani, okay. Intraventricular septum, bicuspid valve, tricuspid valve, aortic semilunar valve, pulmonary semilunar valve over here, inside here, because we had to cut it to be able to see it. All right, okay. And then of course this is the aorta, you could see that. All right, and the papillary muscles, right? And then that's it for the internal structures. With ours, it's just that we cut the moderator band. That's why, because it was contorted some way, but we would have seen it nicely